Daniel and his relationship to Cobra Kai to me has been one of the most interesting places Cobra Kai has explored in. Out of all the things that can be touched on in Cobra Kai, they constantly refer to Daniel and how he used to be a Cobra Kai, and Terry even goes as far as to say he's always had a bit of Cobra Kai in him. And in today's video, I'll be going over just how true this statement is, or aka, the main problem with Daniel LaRusso. For starters, let's go back to season 1. Daniel sees Cobra Kai come back and is now feeling uneasy. He would also be provoked by Johnny and would go on to get pretty upset about Johnny painting over Daniel's face. So what Daniel decides to do is try to shut down Cobra Kai for good with some plan that in reality Daniel knew would work, just to get back at his childhood karate rival, said in Amanda's own words. He's quite literally sending a message back to Johnny not to mess with him. He saw this as an act of war and he chose to respond to it. And even before this moment, this man Tom Cole makes a joke about Daniel doing karate, and he decides to strike first and kick a boba out of his hand. It takes Amanda to remind Daniel exactly what he's doing and makes him realize he's not embracing what Miyagi Do taught him, or specifically what Mr. Miyagi taught him. Daniel even says himself that he's always been a hothead and now he's let his anger take control recently, which is quite literally what Terry Silver taught him back in the 80s. Speaking of the 80s, we see Daniel striking at Johnny in the Halloween party by pouring water on his head, and he even sucker punches Johnny the first time they interact. It's like, strangely, this statement that Terry makes goes as far as even the movies and early Cobra Kai. To further back this up, we see Daniel yell at Robbie for turning on the car in the showroom, and he says that he's not the only one with a temper around here, right after apologizing, implying he's the one with the temper. And we see Daniel ready to fight Johnny when he pulls up to his house. This isn't even the only time this happens, as in season 2 we see Daniel blatantly fight Johnny when he realizes he's got his daughter in his home, along with trying to constantly get ahead and diss Cobra Kai in order to further promote Miyagi Do. And this gets even crazier, as Johnny, the same man who's teaching Cobra Kai's philosophy, is the same person Daniel always gets constantly compared to. And one of the main things this show tries to get across is, despite Daniel and Johnny having a big disagreement that goes as far back as the 80s, these two at the end of the day are trying to do what they believe is right, and they believe that their way is the correct way, best described by Ali. And if you want me to bring out more evidence, well, there's the fact that Sam herself has a fair share of times where she strikes first. She was literally going to fight Kyler before Miguel stepped in season 1, and in literally every single fight with Tori, she comes back even worse than how Tori came at Sam. And literally, Tori and Sam's beef all started because Sam accused Tori first. And there's obviously the parallels between Robbie and Daniel, who himself has always had a bit of Cobra Kai in him, proven in season 3 and 4. Not to mention his father is the one who runs the goddamn Cobra Kai Dojo. And speaking of parallels, Miyagi and Daniel constantly have parallels with each other, and it's shown how Miyagi had secrets of his own, which involved Miyagi Do being applied offensively. And if you want to take it a step further, Johnny himself has parallels with Miyagi, but I'd rather you guys go and check out my buddy Stripes video on that topic, as he goes to make a full deep dive, while I'm just mentioning it for salt on the wound. And trust me, this video is a pretty big brained analysis, so you should definitely check it out yourself. No shameless plug. And before we lastly talk about season 4, there is one thing I want to briefly mention about season 3. After Miyagi Do takes a big L against Cobra Kai, we see Miyagi Do being pushed to their limits, and Daniel literally shit-talking this man Dimitri for breaking his arm. Like, bro, calm down with that Cobra Kai aggression, and let's take it back a few notches, okay? And obviously in season 4, we see Daniel embracing the Cobra Kai style, however, he's using it way more positively, as this is Johnny Lawrence's Cobra Kai and not something like Terry Silver's that he's used to. And the biggest difference here is that whenever he's using Cobra Kai negatively, he's using it instinctively, but now he's actually being properly taught the positive fundamentals of Cobra Kai and being able to apply it positively via kicking a bunch of hockey players' asses, talking shit on his wife. You know what, good for this man Daniel. I really like this scene. This was probably one of my favorite scenes in season 4, and for sure one of the more underappreciated ones. I mean, Daniel just embracing the old style that he was taught to be bad and using it positively is something so ironic for Daniel, but yet just works so well in the narrative. And as I said before, Terry and Daniel have that little convo, and this ties into what I said at the beginning, with Terry saying how he's always had a little bit of Cobra Kai in him and that he's always liked it. And now that we're at this point in the video, do I agree? Yes. And I think this is something that the show wanted us to agree with, as instinctively Daniel's always been a hothead, so when he doesn't have Miyagi for a long time around him, instinctively he's gonna try and apply that style. It wasn't until Amanda's intervention that he stopped and embraced the Miyagi Do philosophy yet again, but despite that he was still conflicting with his overall natural instinct. And this is what I would call the one problem with Daniel LaRusso, which is, despite him hating Cobra Kai and him trying to teach Miyagi Do to be unlike Cobra Kai and just be against it, he goes about it via embracing the fundamentals of Cobra Kai itself. Now, honestly, the question to be answered is this even a problem? And honestly, no. This is something that the show has been building up for a while, and it's in contrast to someone like Gianni, who's been taught the Cobra Kai fundamentals, but has bits and pieces of Miyagi Do within him. And it just goes with what I was saying earlier about how there's no one right in Cobra Kai, and that there's mainly two perspectives rather than just one right answer. And I think that in itself is fucking genius. And if you haven't seen Cobra Kai already, and this is your first, time seeing me talk about Cobra Kai, which, by the way, if it is, what the fuck, you've been spoiled so much. Stop downplaying the narrative. Cobra Kai is top tier, and you goddamn know it. Now, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna get up out of here. I'm pretty tired. I'm gonna pass out. Like the video, share with your friends, subscribe if you are new, hit the bell icon, comment down below what other videos you'd like me to do in the future, and I'll see you guys in the next one.